Thank you for having me. My name is Tom Gibian, and I'm head of Sandy Spring Friends School. Our Ignite gathering here is very much in keeping with the 300-year-old Sandy Spring tradition of learning from each other. I'll explain. We'll begin in 1728 with James Brooke deciding to build the first house in Sandy Spring with his wife, Deborah. He's 23 years old, the son of Roger Brooke, who was of Catholic ancestry, a convinced friend, probably by his wife Elizabeth, who was from a Quaker family. Deborah's 18 years old, the daughter of Richard Snowden the Younger, a Quaker, successful in the iron business, with a large landholding near present-day Laurel. Richard Snowden has been one of the early land speculators looking to push the boundaries of the western frontier. James and Deborah travel on horseback through the borderless wilderness of Prince George's County, which at the time stretched all the way to the Alleghenies. They built the westernmost framed house in America, south of Canada. At that time, all dwellings west of here were wigwams. A year later, Deborah's sister Elizabeth and her husband John Thomas built their house and called it Cherry Grove. Within 10 years, James is in the biscuit-making business, just north of Gold Mine Road. His brother-in-law, John, has done okay too, because in 1742 he builds Clifton, not this Clifton, rather the oldest intact surviving home in the eastern Piedmont, located a few miles from here. By 1745, friends were conducting meeting for worship near the freshwater spring in what was probably a tobacco barn. The meeting's first graveyard occupant was from the Thomas clan, a teenager who died in 1754. The Brooke and Thomas families continued to expand in Sandy Spring. In fact, it wasn't until 1777 that the meeting recorded a member who wasn't a Brooke or a Thomas when a Virginia couple moved to the area. The next generation of Sandy Spring Quakers were a distinguished lot. Caleb Bentley, a silversmith and a friend of Dolly Madison, welcomed President James Madison to spend the night in Brookville following the British torching of the White House. His grandson Jack grew up on a Sandy Spring farm and pitched in the 7th game of the 1924 World Series. Jack threw the walk-off pitch as a New York Giant. His wife Helen gave the land where our Sandy Spring Museum was built. That building was designed by Mish Bose, formerly of our faculty, who we have commissioned to design an expansion of our meeting house here on campus, and who is giving an Ignite speech today. In 1803, Thomas More was awarded the patent for the refrigerator, which he had also named. He hosted Thomas Jefferson, who rode out to Sandy Spring to discuss this and other inventions. May the record note that S. Brooke Moore, a woodworker, tinkerer, ultralight pilot, the founder of Sandy Spring Friends School, and all-round rebel, was a direct descendant. And then there was Isaac Briggs, who was appointed by President Jefferson as Surveyor General for the Louisiana Purchase. Caleb Bentley and Thomas More and Isaac Briggs were brothers-in-law. All were husbands of Deborah Brooke's daughters. This was the start of an unbroken story of innovation, generosity, and invention, fueled by curiosity, scientific method, and spirit. Succeeding chapters to the Sandy Spring story are no less amazing, which brings us to today, and the realization that we are now the culture carriers, an intimidating prospect made easier when we recognize that we have inherited a map from the early Quakers, gently handed down through generations. The threads that bind us are not just to the past, but to each other as we journey together. Silence is meaningful when we are together. The inner light illuminates when we recognize it in each other. Continuing revelation is transformative when freely shared. And gatherings like this one today is what Sandy Springers have been doing for 300 years. Thank you.